The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Positive and creation energy to all the students of the Organic African Paradigm teachings, Africans globally, wherever you find yourself, and anyone else that is wandering across the internet. Positive and creation energy to all of you. Welcome you to another African perspective, African soul, African intelligence, and African science. On this YouTube channel, we learn the organic African paradigms perspective, the African perspective. Now, the channel we've had, before we started this channel, we had a previous channel. That channel was Organic African Paradigm. And I used to teach the dark mystery schools. I used to teach African politics. I used to talk on general African knowledge on that other channel. I took all the videos down. There was about 100 and something plus of those videos. I took all of them down and I preserved all of them. And then we started a new channel. This channel here now, we are talking about the African perspective. In the last channel, I was talking about the dark mystery school. The dark mystery was the science of the ancient Africans, what their mysteries, the system, the science of Africa. But I realized a lot of people, they don't have the basic foundation, which is the perspective. They don't know how to even attain the African perspective. They don't even know what the African world view of things is. They don't even know what the African lens is. So it's like you have to go backwards and help nurture those people so that they can even grasp what an African perspective is. Once they've gotten an African perspective, they are able to see through the eyes of what it means to be an African. At this point now, they can now be brought into bigger, more advanced systems like the Dark Mystery School. They can be brought into the Natural Identity Blueprint. They can be brought into initiation, all the different schools of thought that Organic African Paradigm teachings have. But the first thing is to teach you the bare minimum, which is the African perspective. What is a perspective? A perspective would be the angle at which a being is positioned in reality or observing reality, your observation of reality. So let's picture a globe, a circle, and then picture where my fingers connect right here, where the two fingers join. Picture this is the center line. The center line is connecting from there to there. Picture that. And on one side is this, in this part right here, there's a person, and this person is an African. And then picture here on this other side, this other person is a non-African. Picture that. They're not African. So you have two people observing. There's a ball in the middle here. And the person here is looking at one side of the ball. The African who is over here is looking at one side of the ball. And the non-African who is over here is looking at another side of the ball. That is perspective. Perspective is your position in reality that you are observing the universe at. Everything the way you're seeing the universe, how the universe is shaped and formed. African people lost perspective. They lost their ability to view the world because of something called colonization and something people we call slavery, etc. Right? Africa, the continent we call Africa, was invaded during the time of the Arab conquest, and the Arab brought their perspective into Africa. And through their conquest of the African lands, their perspective took, and that perspective was taught to generations and generations of Africans after that. Then the people of Europe came out of Europe on ships, came into Africa, and they brought their own perspective. And that perspective again landed in Africa through an invasion. And by the time it was done, many generations of Africans after that invasion gained a different perspective. However, the Africans did originally, before there were evasions, before there were people bringing other ideas, other way of looking at the universe or their world, Africans have their own perspective, their own way of looking at the world. And this way of looking at the world is is a strange, or is something that Africans themselves are not, they're not familiar with. It sounds foreign to the African. So what is organic to the African has become foreign to the African. And what is foreign to the African has appeared as organic to the African. And this is what makes African people, they have to be taught, they have to be educated, they have to be re-given a perspective. And it's going to be a difficult thing to be able to teach Africans their perspective. Because, for one, you are going to be trying to disrupt the current perspective that they hold. What they perceive is the organic perspective, or their new perspective, the natural one they have. By you attempting to alter it, maybe change it, maybe guide them, they will feel as though you are threatening, you are doing something harmful. And that is just a reaction that comes with the territory. However, it doesn't matter if we look at it from that perspective. What we really need to focus on is that there is an African perspective, and the Africans do have their stories. Their stories are unknown to the children of Africa, the descendants of Africa. Their stories are unknown. The reason their stories are unknown is because they had not been given that perspective. And so on this channel, the first thing we do is try to teach you the African perspective. That's why you come here. Hopefully, when you've learned the perspective, what it means to be an African, when you develop some form of African perspective, we can move on now to the tougher lessons, the bigger lessons, like the dark mysteries. We can learn the different African science. We can learn all the different way Africans understood nature. We can learn those things. But the very bare minimum is I have to teach you perspective. Okay? So remember, you're standing on the African continent in the southern hemisphere, and you are observing the universe. And that is your perspective. That is the perspective of your ancestors. It does not make sense for someone to leave the Arabian desert, who was standing in the Arabian desert looking at the world from the Arabian desert perspective, coming to Africa and then telling Africans this is the universal truth. Nor does it make sense for an African standing in Buckingham Palace coming to Africa and telling the Africans this is the universal truth. It does not make sense. But many Africans, or not even many, I will say about 94% of Africans in general have been under this perspective. So you come here to learn. What is today's topic? Today's topic is the Africans version, the title that our ancestors called TCHI-SU. The title of TCHI-SU, how the title of TCHI-SU became Jesus to the Greeks. And I'm telling you this story. I'm not saying that what the Greeks created, their perspective, they put in the Bible and they gave it to other groups of people to follow that perspective. I'm not saying that perspective is wrong for the people who follow it. I'm saying that perspective to the African people. However, there is the organic perspective of what they call a TCHI-SU in Africa. And that's why you're all gathered here. But first, let's go into two stories I'm going to read for you today. These stories will be on page 101. And the story is called Kana, the names of three boys. This story comes from the Ganda in Uganda. Okay, it comes from Ganda/Uganda. So I think Ugandan people should be familiar with the story. Human history begins with the first family, the head of which is Chintu. So the head of the first family is, human history begins with the first family, and the head of which is Chintu. Chintu is the head of the three families. There are three children in the family. All boys initially are called Kana, little child. Okay, Kana means little child. Because this is confusing, Kintu asked the ancestor or God. Kintu asked God if they may be given separate names. So initially the boys they all have the same names, and then the one who will become Chintu, he asked the God or their father, to give them separate names. Because this okay, God agrees, and the boys are given two tests. First, 6 objects are placed on a path by which the boys will pass: an ox head, an ox head, a cowhide tongue, a bundle of cooked millet and potatoes, a grass-headed ring for carrying loads on the head, an axe, and a knife. When the boys came upon these things, the eldest takes the bundle of food and starts to eat. What he cannot eat, he carries away using the head ring for this purpose. So he puts something on the head and he puts the thing there, he carries it away, right? He also takes the axe and the knife. So he also takes the axe and the knife. The eldest brother takes the axe and the knife. The second son takes the leather trunk, and the youngest takes the ox head, which is all that is left. In the next test, the boys must sit on the ground in the evening with their legs stretching out, each holding on his lap a wooden milk pot full of milk. They are told that they must hold their pots safely until morning. During the night, the youngest boy, dozing off, spilled a little of his milk and asked his brothers for some of theirs. Each gave him a little, and his pot is full again. Just before dawn, the eldest brother suddenly spilled all his milk. Suddenly spilled all his milk, but his brothers refused to help him because it would take too much of their milk to fill an empty pot. In the morning, their father finds uh, uh, the youngest son's pot full. He finds the youngest son pot full, the second son nearly full, and that of the eldest empty. He gives his decision and names the 3 boys. Because he chose the millet and potatoes, peasants' food, and because he lost all his milk, all the milk entrusted to him, showing himself unfit to have anything to do with cattle, the eldest and his descendants after him is uh, is always to be a servant and a cultivator. So it means that he's gonna have to be the worker and he's also going to have to be the cultivator. Okay, the agriculturalist, the planter, right, the farmer. He is named Kairu, meaning peasant. The second son, because he chose the leather trunk for tying cattle and had spilled none of his milk, providing some only for his younger brother, will with his descendants have the respected status of the cattle man or the cattle herd. He is called Kauma, little cowherd. The cattle herding people of this part of the interclimatic regions have been, called Huma or Hima. The third and youngest son, because he has taken the ox head, is sign that he would be at the head of all men. A sign that he would be at the head of all men. The youngest son took the ox head because it was the last thing remaining on the path. So it is a sign that he will be at the head of all men. With his father's hair, will be his father's hair. That means he will be the king, the king. He alone had a full bowl of milk when the morning came, Because of the help given to him by his brothers, he is named Kakama, little Mukama, or ruler. So he is called ruler Mukama or Kakama, right? He and his descendants became the kings of Kitara, later to be the Bonyoro. The father tells the two eldest sons that they should stay with their youngest brother and serve him always, and he calls Kakama to rule wisely and well. And that is the story of Kintu. Okay? So we have our first story, which is of Kintu, how the cow herd. What is the head of the bull symbolized in Africa? The head of the bull symbolized the head of all men, or the chief, or the leader. Okay, in Kemet, the head of bull, the head of the cow or the bull is called Kenti, Kenti. In Buganda, it's called Kintu or Chintu. So Kenti in Kemet, Kenti in Buganda, Kentu or Chintu. Okay, so same thing, just minor iteration. In Kemet, Kintu or Chintu or Kenti means a leader, a chieftain, a king, a ruler, etc., symbolized by the head of the bull. Okay, now the second person in the story is the farmer. The farmer is the one with the blade, the sword, the blade. He is the one with the potato. He is the one with the millet, and he is the one with the, how do you call it? What else is he? He is the one with the empty pot of milk. He is called the peasant, the agriculturalist, the cultivator. So we have the second person, and then we have the cow herd, which is the nobility. In Africa, people, cow herds or cow herders or people with cattle, they are considered noble. It's a noble profession. And this noble profession allows when someone needs to get married or when they need to pay dowry or something like that, cattle is considered a source of wealth. All the way into Liberia, anywhere in Africa, cattle is considered a source of wealth. In Liberia, especially, I'm as Buganda, everywhere, the Sudan, cattle are considered wealth. In Liberia, is considered wealth as well. So we've heard the first story about the cow, the head of the bull. The head of the bull in Africa means the ruler of men or the king of men. Okay, or in Kemet, the head of the bull is called Kenti, meaning the head of men or the chieftain or the leader. So now you know that the head of the bull that you always see, the bull, that head means king or ruler. Okay, so that's the first thing, the first story. Let's go to the second story in today's mythology. I'm reading you two stories, and then from there we will go into our lecture. So in this second story come from the land of Kemet, from the city called Chiba or Busiris. There is a city in Egypt or Kemet, the Nile Valley, and this city is called Busiris or Buwisser. Is called Chiba or Cheba as well, this city. We are going to read a story from this city, and then we will go into our lesson. So in ancient Egypt, a myth about with the active guidance of a god, a myth about a man with the active guidance of the god moves to the status of pharaoh. So how a man in ancient Egypt became the pharaoh, or he achieved the power of the pharaoh. So a being who has a god in him. So the pharaoh is considered, when we say pharaoh, what does pharaoh mean? Pharaoh means a person who has the spirit of the creator in them. That's what a pharaoh is. So a pharaoh means a person with the spirit of God, right? Anyone whom, well, all of us have the spirit of God, but it says if a man with the active guidance of the God is a pharaoh, and this who a being who has the deities or the ancestors within them. So any human being who has the ancestors within them, like, I'm talking like not in your imagination, you imagine, oh yeah, I have the ancestors with me. No, not your imaginary thing. I'm talking the ancestors are with you. That means when they're with you, you will know it. It's not like you imagine it, is you will see it, you will experience it. It's a physical. So these are the type of people whom are upright. They are called the upright people. They do not, they're not corrupt, they're not greedy, they don't steal, they don't do all those things that ordinary people might engage in, right? They're not driven to conflict, they're not driven to hatred and all this type of stuff. The idea of this pharaoh, the person who is called, the people call the pharaoh, this person is supposed to be the embodiment or a vessel which hosts the divine. You must be a vessel that hosts the divine. So that means if the divine exists or dwell within you, you must reflect it physically. You must reflect it in life. That's what a pharaoh is. So if you hear people talking about the pharaoh, the pharaoh you have to reflect divinity to be a pharaoh. Like the gods or the ancestors must be rooted in you. Now let's continue the story. When Bata refused to be seduced by his brother's Anpu's wife, she accused him of wrongdoing. Bata must flee Anpu's wrath. Ra creates a body of water to separate the brothers, and Bata, protesting his innocence to his brother, severed his penis and throws it in the water. Bata then goes to an acacia forest. The gods are pained because of Bata's loneliness. So whenever in the context that we say the gods, the sovereigns, in the context that the story is being told, we are talking about our ancestors. Our ancestors are the equivalent of the gods. Anytime you hear the word the gods, it's always our ancestors, the saints, the deities, all of those people, the divine ancestors, they are the gods. So like people think in other culture, our culture, the deities are the ancestors. They were once human beings and they did something worthy, and they were joined into the race of the divine, and they became the deities. This is something that we do in Africa. So let's continue the story. Now Bata's loneliness, the gods, the ancestors, pain because of Bata's loneliness, create a wife for him. So the ancestors create a wife for Bata. Because he has emasculated himself, he cannot consummate the relationship. He informs his wife that his soul is in a flower at the top of the acacia tree. His wife leaves him and marries the pharaoh and tells her husband where Bata's soul can be found. Okay, so the flower is found and destroyed, and Bata dies. So Bata is Ampu's brother, right? Ampu and Bata are twins or two brothers. Ampu's wife tries to seduce Bata. Bata says no. And because of this, the woman lies on Bata, causing conflict between the two brothers. Ra creates a water to separate the two brothers. So the two brothers are separated by an ocean or a river. And this river that separates them, Anpu leaves and Bata leaves and go into the acacia forest, and he has severed his manhood, and he throws it into the water, which is eaten by a fish. The manhood is then consumed by a fish. So now when the ancestors give him a wife, he cannot consummate the wife. So with the wife, so the wife leaves him, and the wife goes to the pharaoh and marries the pharaoh, meaning that there was already another pharaoh in the land, and the wife has married that pharaoh. Okay, so let's continue. Where she marries the pharaoh and tells the pharaoh where Bata's soul can be found. Now she say, "There's Bata's soul. Go in at the top of the acacia tree." The flower is found and destroyed by the pharaoh, and Bata dies. Anpu, having killed his wife for her false accusation of Bata, so Anpu, now the brother of Bata, later discovered that his wife had a false accusation, and then so she's removed from the picture. He finds his brother's body. So he finds Bata's body, and with the seed, because remember, the Pharaoh has killed Bata and Bata is dead. And with the seed from the flower that had contained his soul, he takes the seed from the acacia tree of the flower of the acacia. He takes a seed from it, and then he brings Bata back to life through this seed. So Bata is now transformed into a great ox. So Bata becomes the great ox. So now this is the great bull. Bata takes on the form of the great bull in this now. So we have the introduction of the great bull. He reveals himself to his wife at the palace of the Pharaoh. The wife has the Pharaoh kill the bull. So the wife, when he tells her, she says no, and she kills the bull. Okay, she said, I can't marry a bull, so she kills the bull. Okay, now Bata transforms into an ox. Now he's the bull. He reveals himself to his wife, and the ox is slaughtered. Drops of blood grow into two great Persea tree. So it's no longer acacia tree, but the drops of the bull's blood create the Persea tree. And again, Bata reveals himself to his wife from the Persea tree, shows her, say, hey, I'm the Persea tree. She has the Pharaoh cut down the trees, and they make the trees into the pillars, the columns, right? The jet pillar. When they are felled, a chip from the tree enters the mouth of the wife, and she becomes pregnant. A son, Bata, is born to her. When the father, the Pharaoh, dies, Bata takes his place, becoming the Pharaoh. He judges his wife and brings his brother to live with him. The various transformation of Bata within the context and under the influence of the woman created for him by the gods lead him to from mortality to immortality, and lead him to union with the gods. So what we call a Pharaoh in ancient Africa, Pharaoh means union with the divine. That's what a Pharaoh means, literally. When you say Pharaoh, a Pharaoh means union with the divine. So someone who has been one with the divine, an immortal. So these immortals, when they die, they are wrapped in bandages, or they are wrapped in a shroud. The shroud, they are called the sealed ones. The sealed ones, they are sealed away in tombs. They are sealed away in tombs. When they are enshrouded, they are sealed away in tombs, and their tomb, from there they are expected to resurrect as the gods. They are expected to resurrect, same as the divine. So the immortals in Africa, our immortal ancestors, are called Sahu. Sahu. Okay, Sahu means the immortal one, the immortals, the sealed ancestor, those who have been sealed. That means nobody's supposed to open their tomb. You're not supposed to break the seal of their tomb. But in the modern world we live in, the Egyptologists broke open the tombs of the Sahus, and they put all of them on display in the British Museum, in this museum, and that museum, knowing the tombs have been sealed. They don't know, because of their ignorance. They don't know that the tombs have been sealed. And those people, they are called the immortals, those who have been united with the divine. All right, so I read you two stories, and in these two stories, you learn about the bull. So let's talk about how in the concept of Jesus, how the word Jesus, and how our concept of a Jesus, the Greeks took that and the Greeks created Jesus, where now everybody in the world is worshiping Jesus. And then how in ancient Africa the concept of TCHI-SU appeared. That in ancient Africa we have something called TCHI-SU. A TCHI-SU is literally what you would call a pharaoh. That's what a TCHI-SU is. A TCHI-SU is the one who has been united with the divine, a divine union. Someone who is one with the divine. And it's not like people think, you want to think you're special one with the divine type of mentality. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you say you're one with the divine, there's no stealing, there's no lying, there's no theft, there's no greed, there's no selfishness, there's foresight, forethought, selffulness. All of these things, you have to represent the divine, all the things of Ma'at. You have to be the embodiment of Ma'at. Our ancestors call this embodiment of Ma'at Muntu. When a man or a person has embodied Ma'at, when you are living truly in Ma'at, they call this type, they call you Muntu. Muntu means the perfect person, the perfect man or perfect being. That means you are devoted to the path of the ancestors, not through thick and through thin, through life, through death. Everything you love, even if they're destroyed, even if your property is destroyed, even if you are still committed to the path, even if people abandon you, you are still committed to the path of the ancestors. That is, all of these things are called what a chisu is. A chisu is how our ancestors established as one of the highest title that a human being can achieve. And when the Greeks got their hand as Jesus. And for me, I'm not condemning or I'm not against what the non-Africans have established for themselves. If the non-Africans say, oh, we are going to worship Jesus and we're going to follow what the Bible says, they are within their right to follow the Bible. They're within their right to follow there. But when they come to Africa to teach you about that, they are not within their right. They are wrong for teaching you that. Because in Africa, we have a different version of what a chisu is. There's no reason why someone would bring their faith system from other places in the world. Their faith is meant for them to be able to find a way to live in the environment they're in. But they are taking their faith out of their environment and they're bringing it to the African continent and they're forcing the African people to take it. And the African people are taking these faith system and the Africans they are turning against their own inheritance, which is wrong. It's not wrong for them to take and practice it, but it is wrong for them to teach Africans that. And for Africans to go and teach other Africans that, it is wrong, right? So let's continue the story here. The image you see here, this child, he is called Ker-A. This image here of the child you see in the picture. The young man in the picture here his name is Aha. Aha means the moon. So Aha right here, he comes out of the underworld, and within his right hand or his left hand, he has a lion by the tail, a scorpion by the tail, and two serpents in his hand. He holds them in the right hand, and then he holds an antelope by the horn, he holds a scorpion by the tail, and he holds two serpents. So he emerges out of the underworld. Aha, his name is Aha. Okay, Aha comes out of the underworld and he is stepping on two crocodiles. He is balanced upon the two crocodiles. Okay, this, we call this in Kemet, God upon the two crocodiles. This is called the ancestor who stands upon the two crocodiles. So he stands on the two crocodiles. He holds the lion by his tail, the scorpion by his tail, and he holds the two serpents by his tail. He holds the lion, the antelope by his horn. He holds the scorpion by his tail, and he holds the two serpents. This is very, very important for Africans to know that in our ancestral culture, this man named Aha is the moon rising out of the underworld. The ruler of the underworld is called Bes. This is Bes right here, the sovereign who sits above. He is the ruler of the underworld, the guardian of the underworld in the Bes. And who rises out of the underworld? Ker-A. Ker-A means to emerge or rising out of the underworld. This one who rises out of the underworld, this is the god of the moon. He later grows on to become a being, a falcon they call Horus or Hori, or Khonshu. He is called Khonshu, or he is called Horus. Okay, Horus is a title that many people have worn. Horus is not a title of one human being, rather Horus is a title of many people. Okay, Horus or Heru equals what people call divine hero, the architectural hero, the heroic man, the heroic man, the perfect man, the divine man. That is what a Horus is. A Horus is a man united with the divine. That's what a Horus is. A Horus is a man united with the divine. Who is the divine? The divine is Ra. The divine is, that's why we have Ra Haruti, or we have something. So Aha emerges out of the underworld after his initiation. He emerges out of the underworld post initiation, and here he is balancing on the back of two crocodiles, and then holding the symbols, all the most powerful knowledges on his in his two hands. Now, this year, this individual here, and you see him with the serpent, with the ram, the serpent staff with the ram head, and you see him with the two plumes. You see the stars, and you see a bull, and upon the bull's back is the moon, the bull that lives the moon. So in Africa, we would call this the mountain of the moon. In Kemet, the mountain of the moon is referred to as Kenti. Okay, Kenti Amenti. Kenti Amenti, or it might not be called Kenti Amenti specifically, but Amenti means mountain. For people who don't know, Amenti means a mountain, right? Amenti means, the way people establish it. No, Amenti means mountain hold, stronghold, mountain, stronghold. Kenti means the chief's mountain, the king's mountain, right? This mountain, the mountain of the moon, this is what this symbol represents. It represents something called the mountain of the moon. The bull represents or reflects the mountain of the moon. So, what does Jesus and the mountain of the moon have in common? What does TCHI-SU and mountain of the moon have in common? We will go into that. That's why I wanted to tell you the story first. I wanted to introduce you to the story of the Kintu, the head of the leader of men, or the king, the leader of all men, or the leader of humanity. And then the second was Bata, who turned into a bull, a great bull, and that bull was turned into the Persea tree. So now we come to the white moon, or the silver moon, the constellation of the spring equinox, marking the sun's position. So the bull that you saw in the picture there, this bull lifts the white moon or the silver moon upon his head, and this represents the spring, the period of what people call the spring equinox, right? It represents the renewal of life, or the renewal of the land, and it represents essentially what people call the spring across the world, not just in southern hemisphere, but across the world, right? Now, we have many different symbols or things connected with the bull. The bull in the alphabet, or the Greek alphabet, or the Phoenician alphabet, or every alphabet on planet Earth, the bull, there is the first letter of the entire alphabet. And even in the Arabic letter, the bull is called Aleph, Ba, Ta, etc. Arabic. Then we have Aleph, which is Hebrew Phoenician, and then which is Alpha, which is Greek, which is the head of the bull. So between the ram, when the Earth completed its annual orbit, or the spring unity, we get this equinox. So that symbol is synonymous with the birth or the emergence of the underworld, the sovereign rising out of death, the sovereigns being reborn or emerging out of the underworld. That is what Kura symbolizes. Kura reflects the rise from the underworld. Now, In Africa, before there was the what people call the solar dynasty. There's two things in Kemet. There's the lunar dynasty or the moon kings, the kings who were all the kings of the moon, and then there's the kings of the sun, the kings of the sun. In the earliest time of Africa, there was an entire lineages of kings who were part of the moon or the solar dynasty, the lunar dynasty, as they call it, right? Kings and their descendants were named the moon god. They took on the name of the moon divinity, the moon god, or the moon creator, right? Or the moon ancestor, as you would call it. Kings, etc. All of them there, and one of the king is Ah. It's not the name should not be joined like this, right? The problem with Egyptologists when they translate when they create these interpretations, they call it Amos the first. The name is which means the moon, and then Mu means water or essence, full. Okay, Si means the full. So the full essence of the moon. That's what Amos means. Amos means the full essence of the moon, or the full spirit of the moon, or the soul of the moon. The one who is full of the soul of the moon, the full essence of the moon. So Amos, that's what it means. But it says Ames, which is now, you see, when they change it to Ames, then if it's Ames, it means to be birthed from the moon, to born from the moon, okay? Birth from the moon, okay? Or the moon birth. Moon born would be Amos, right? So the moon is born would be Pa A Mes, or Mesu Amu. Mesua. So this now, Amos was a pharaoh and founder of the 18th dynasty in Egypt, in the new kingdom of Egypt, the era in the mid 16th century late round. During the rule of Amos, who completed the conquest and the expulsion of and it restored the Theban rule over lower and upper Egypt, and successfully reasserted Egyptian power in the former territory, Canaan and Nubia. So essentially, when the Africans began another golden age. So one golden age ended, and then they started another golden age under the lunar kings, the moon kings, the kings of the moon. So kings of the moon usually have the name of Amun. Amun are moon kings. So anyone with the name Amun, etc., those are all moon kings. Anyone with the name Ra, those are solar king, right? Solar kings. Solar kings they have a different name, and lunar kings have a different title, right? Anything with Amun, etc., they all have that. So this is the first sovereign, or the first moon lord, the moon god, the god of the full moon in Kemet. It means his name is the full moon. Is Si. So is either Si, meaning the full moon, right? Or right? Or Ha. His name is either Ha, meaning vast or great, or meaning or La, as you would, some people call it La, some people call it some people call it Ya, some people call it Ja. Whichever you want to call it, whichever translation you want to call it, Ja, you want to call it Ya, you want to call it you want to call it La, regardless of what you call it, this is the first lord of the moon. He's the first king of the moon. This is what they would call Osiris. This is he was the first king, or at least he was the earliest, one of the earliest incarnations of what they call the Jesus or TCHI-SU. He's one of the earliest. If he's the most likely, 99%, I am 98% confident he was the prototype of Jesus. Okay, what you're calling Jesus, he is. So in Africa, Jesus is a moon god, right? In Africa, Jesus is a moon god. So the African perspective, he's a moon deity. He's not I don't know what other deity the people who worship him, I don't know what deity they associated him with specifically, right? But in Africa, the one that we associate with Jesus is a moon deity. His whole life is surrounded by the moon. Everything he does, everything is affiliated with the moon. So he is a moon god. Okay, that's the difference. His name is a moon deity. So we have, this is the first Jesus of Africa, or TCHI-SU, the first. His name is A, meaning the moon, the full moon. Okay, you can say CR. CR means the full moon. C means to fill, and then A means moon. Or me means full, and then A, me or ame, ame or lame or yame or jame, full, the moon, full moon. He is this Lord of the full moon. And the horn that you see on there, this is the horn of the bull. He is always reflected as the bull. He's in different incarnation. He is reflected as a bull. The bull is called Taurus. The bull is what people call the Taurus bull, the bull of Taurus. Okay, he's affiliated with that. So this story of Ah or Ha starts in this land I've circled right here. So the story does not start in Egypt like people think. No, it doesn't start anywhere here. It started here in the land of the mountain of the moon. So the mountain of the moon exists in this circle right here, where Buganda is, Rwanda is, and the Congo is. The mountain of the moon exists here. So the story, according to the ancestors, the story happens near the mountain of the moon. This is Ah, and he is called the Great Black One, or the Perfect Black One. He is called the Great Black One, or the Perfect Black One. So the ancestors would they called him the Perfect Black One, or the Great Black One. In Japan, they have him there, but the Japanese would call him Daikokokten. Daikokokten means Great Black One. In Japan, they have him there, but he's called Daikokokten. He's an agricultural god, or an agricultural deity. Okay, in Africa, specifically, the bull here, Kenti is a agricultural deity. He's the sovereign of agriculture. The bull symbolizes, the bull is a deity of agriculture. The bull is a god of agriculture. He's a farm god. He's a farmer god, right? A farmer ancestor, an ancestor of agriculture. So in Japan, they have a version called the Great Black One, which is Daikokukten. In Africa, we have the Great Black One, which is, he is said to be 8 foot tall, or either 8 foot tall or 8 foot tall, and he is called the Great Black One, the bull. Okay, 8 foot tall. Imagine that. Okay, that's a large human being. Now, this is in the bull form as a Taurus, the constellation. Is also known as Kintu, or in Kemet, he's called Kenti, Amenti. Okay, he's called, in Kemet, he's called Kenti, Amenti, and in Buganda, he's called Kintu, the leader of humanity. So this bull here, this is what the Bugandans would call Kintu, and in Kemet, they call him Kenti, Amenti, ruler or the chief of Amenta. Okay, chief of the Western Mountains, or chief of the Western Mountain. This is whom the Egyptians called or Kami, Ra. So the Kemetic people call him or in what they call Egypt, they call him or they call him Kami, Ra, the black sun, okay, or the black eye. Okay, it's called Kami. Kami means black person, a black man or black person. That's what a Kami is. In Japan, Kami means a deity, right? In Africa, in Kemet, Kami means a black person. Okay, in Japan, Daikokokten means Great Black One, the agricultural god. In Africa, the agricultural god is Kintu, or Kenti, or which is the great black one. He's called the great black one, Kamira. Okay, the black king. So this is the true Alpha. This is where the story of the Alpha come from. Okay, remember what is the Alpha means. Alpha, you all heard the Alpha and the Omega. So he in Africa, this is the true Alpha. This is the Alpha. This is where they get the idea, the concept of an Alpha. The Alpha male is not a wolf. The Alpha male is the black bull. That's the Alpha male. That's how our ancestors would. So this is the true Alpha, whom the Bugandans would call Kintu, but in Kemet they would call Kenti, which is the title of the same bull. Okay, or he would be called Kensu. So he is the Jesus of the Bible, like the constellation Taurus. He is the one. So here we have him here in this form. This is called Khonshu. And let's go through Khonshu. Khonshu, what is he? Let's go through everything he's doing in this photo. He has the full moon on his head. One. He has the horn that the moon is balanced upon his horns. Two. He has the side lock upon his side of his head, symbolizing youth and vitality. The side lock symbolizing youthfulness and vitality and beauty. The side lock symbolizes beauty, youthfulness, and vitality. So let's go the blue cap, the skull cap, or the blue cap symbolizing the mind, the all-seeing, the all mind, or the full cosmic mind. So he wears the cap of the full cosmic mind. He has the full cosmic mind. So he is the total scope of the full cosmic mind he has on his head. Okay, fluid intelligence. He has the cap, which means fluid intelligence, water, the intelligence of water. Second thing, he has the rainbow necklace around his neck, the Menak necklace, which is the rainbow serpent. Okay, the rainbow serpent, which is associated with the weather, which is associated with the sun, surrounding the sun, associated with time, associated with many, many things. Then he has the bell on around his neck, the cow bell around his neck, and then he has the shroud. So he has the rainbow necklace, right? The necklace of God. He has the necklace of God, or the divine necklace. He's wearing the heavens around his neck, and then he has the bell. Okay. Then he's wearing the white shroud, symbolizing purity, symbolizing the martyrs, symbolizing the great ones, the great ancestors, the pure ones. Okay, the martyrs, the departed ancestors. Then he is giving the symbols of the king, the symbols of kingship. He is giving the law, he is giving guidance, and he is giving stability of the land. He is giving the three things to rule: the sovereignty, right? The stability of the people, the law, customary law of the people, and then he's told to shepherd the people. So he's a shepherd, and he's the stabilizing pillar. He's the sovereign. He's the law as well. So he embodies all of these things. And most important thing about Khonshu is he is walking on water. He has a pool of water beneath his feet. He stands in a pool of water, or he walks on water. So that is the most important thing of Khonshu. Another title for Khonshu, or this same person, is called Chi. Chi means the serpent. Remember, in the photo when he came out of the world, the underworld, he holds two serpents in one hand, and he holds another two serpents in one hand. And he holds the two serpents intertwining with each other, symbolizing the ancestors. Symbolizing the ancestors. So he is called the Chi. The Chi means the essence of Ra. When Ra came out of the noon, when Ra was emerging out of the noon or traveling in the noon, Ra took on the form of a serpent so that he could be able to flow with the noon. So the form which Ra took, which is the serpent, was the most perfect form for the cosmos. So this serpent symbolized breath, consciousness, and it symbolized divinity. Okay, and then the feather symbolized light. Okay, the feather symbolized light, etc. So Chi is the serpent and Su is the feather. Let's continue. Chi-Su. Through the process of the etymology of the Africans languages, when the Greeks had to translate the language from the African native language to the Greek language, the Greeks started with the word chi and they ended up with the word Jisu or Jizo, which later came to be Jesus. So this word Jesus is a transliteration or a translation from Chisu in the original language become Jesus, 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 etc. So this is the Greek version of it, and Chisu is the organic African version of it. So Jesus, Greek translation, Chisu, organic African. Now, Chisu is not an individual. It's not about individuality. It's not. It's a concept about the effort of a human being. A human being possessing the divine character or becoming one with the divine. It's any a person that becomes a Chisu. It's not like something that there's this one guy and then he's the only absolute Jesus and there's no more Jesus. That's it. No, there's actually many people who become Chisu in Kemet. There's many Chisu. There's not just one, right? There are different levels of them. There are different kinds of Chisu, but the Chisu is a title reserved for these ancestors. And they are marked by their ancestors who are said to live by the effort of their willpower and their willingness. They were extremely willing and they had a strong willpower. Could not be broken. And then they were very willing. They were very open and very ready. They were readiness. And most of all, they made a lot of effort. They were hardworking and they were dedicated. So the supreme self cultivated by the breath or the air. So the chi is the supreme self. So what we call our chi, all of us have a chi. Our chi is our supreme self cultivated through our breath. Okay, it's a type of energy which is cultivated through breath, or is cultivated through the wind, or is cultivated through fire, etc. But it's a flow of energy that goes from the sexual organs up the spine into the back of the brain or into the brain and concentrates into the brain. This is the chi. That's the mode of the chi. The chi base of the spine goes up into the brain, and then it sits on in the prefrontal cortex. That is the nature of the chi. The chi, remember, it comes out of the spine, goes all the way to the back of the head, and comes to the front of the head and sits right in front of between your eyebrows, and that is the nature of the chi. So the chi is your supreme self cultivated by your breath, your mastery of the techniques or the spiritual flow of energy. Basically you're gonna have to practice some kind of what is it called, abstinence. You're gonna have to practice some kind of sexual discipline, many kind of discipline you have to practice for you to cultivate this. But when this cortex, the personality center of the brain, for the cultivation of conscious ancestor, when it reaches to the front of the brain from the prefrontal cortex, you have now become Chi-Su. You have now become someone called the Chi-Su. Okay, so meaning you are a righteous ancestor. You are righteous ancestor. That's what a Chi-Su is, a righteous ancestor, or you commune with the righteous ancestors. So whom have been initiated and carry a mandate to restore Ma'at. So the Chi-Su always come with a mandate to restore Ma'at. Is the Chi-Su going to be victorious in restoring Ma'at? No. But the Chi-Su has to provide guidance for the people to follow Ma'at. That's what the Chi-Su is for. The Chi-Su must lay down the prescription or the guidelines for people to follow Ma'at. So there are many Chi-Su, but they all must bring some guidelines, and the guidelines must lead the people towards Ma'at. If the guidelines take the people astray, or it harms the people or cause problem, then the person is they're a false chisu. They want the real chisu. But if the guidelines is good and is strengthening the people and elevate the people, then that person is a true chisu, right? So chisu is a righteous ancestor or a person of righteous character. Chi meaning the serpent or the spirit or the divine spirit, and su means truth, the one who speaks the truth, the feather of light. Okay, that's what it means. Su means the feather of light. So the person who is righteous, who speaks the truth, etc. African tonal versus Greek tonal are different. Greek tones, the way Greeks use language is different, and the way Africans use language is different. So when the Greek's perspective, what we are experiencing is the Greek perspective brought through colonization, imposed upon Africa, and Africans now are interpreting the world through Greek. Africans comprehend the world through Greek. So the African tonal and the Greek tonal are different. The letter J or D in Latin, letter sounds in Africa or Medu nature is chi. So J or D, what the Greeks would call in Latin, in Africa, this is called chi in Medu nature, chi. Okay, so Y in Latin later is going to be E, Latin. Okay, so Y in Latin, E will be in the Kemetic language. So Jesus would go later to become Chi-Su. And we'll go further into that. The symbol of the ancestors and the martyrs is the serpent. So the saints, all we don't have one ancestor. The problem with Africans, they are under this idea that they've been on planet Earth 6,000 years. You have not been on Earth 6,000 years. You've been on Earth billions of years. And we have billions of ancestors. There are billions of them that have existed. And every one of them, they have a story. Every one of them, some of them were great, some of them were terrible. Regardless of what they were, they've been on this earth for a long time. So within all our billions of ancestors, there are ancestors who are martyrs. They are, very powerful ancestors, and they are saints and they are ancestral spirits, and they represents our messengers. So these ancestors, these martyrs, and these ancient saints and ancestral spirits, they are our messenger. They represent the messengers of who? The messengers of the divine creator. So these messengers of the divine creator, the supreme being deliver messages through our ancestral spirits, our saints, our martyrs, and our ancestors, the noble ancestors. The supreme creator give messages to them, and they give messages in the world of the living, right? They bring those messages in the world of the living. These are given the title of Chi-Su. Chi-Su is the title given to those who bring the laws of Ma'at. Now, let's continue into this. This is the Egyptian hieroglyphic, or what you call the Medu nature. So these symbols here are all Medu nature symbols, forms, changes, and transformation. Every Medu nature was created in a distant time long ago by our ancestors to tell a story. Every Medu nature tells a different story. Every Medu nature is associated. Then there was something called the Rosetta Stone. People from Europe interpreted the Rosetta Stone, and they created the Latin alphabet. The Latin alphabet, or the Greco alphabet, or the Greco-Latin alphabet, they brought everything, because that is the language they speak. They speak Latin and they speak Greek, and so they converted the traditional language of Africa into Latin and Greek for all of us who are Latin and Greek speakers for us to understand. And out of this, we get the alphabet. So you have the A, eagle, I, read, Y, the two reeds, the rain, and then the hand, the arm, the quail, the what is it called? The spiral, the foot, the platform or the box, and then we have the serpent, the viper, we have the owl, and all the way down we have the hand, and when we have the serpent. So we have the serpent. And so what is the Latin letter for the serpent? The letter for the serpent, when it comes brought to Latin, is J. But in the Medu Nature, if we are pronouncing it directly as the Medu Nature, it is Chi. So the serpent is called Chi, but in Latin, you can call it J. Okay? But if you were to pronounce this J in from the European perspective, you would say J. In the Kemetic, you would say Chi. Okay? So Chi equals a serpent. A serpent, Chi, what is a Chi? A serpent that came forth from Ra. So the Chi is the serpent that came out of Ra. So the soul of Ra. So the spirit of Ra is the serpent. The serpent is the spirit of the sun. For those of you who don't know what the serpent is, the serpent represents the spirit of the sun. So you see the sun that's in the sky that was shining right down, right? The serpent comes out of the sun and into the earth in the form of light, in the form of illumination. And this serpent is called Chi. Okay? Chi. Now, when the serpent transforms into light, it is called Su. So, Chi means I am in my serpent form. Su means I have become the seven color of light. I have become light. I have become the daylight. I have become the truth. I have spoken the truth. I am upright. I have integrity. I have wisdom. I have all the things. Su is the virtues, the knowledge, all the reason, the logic, everything that you need to have the most golden age divine life on earth to make a successful existence in the cosmos is under the form of Su. Su. Chi is a spirit that comes from the sun, is made of energy of the sun. So the energy of the sun inside of you that is powering your life, that is the Chi. The energy of the sun that is powering my life, that is the Chi. Su is the knowledge of all the cosmos immersed into this force, and this Su now becomes righteousness, truth, justice, integrity, etc. When a human being is parallel to the divine, they are called Chi Su. So we have the female version is Chi-Ti-Su. Chi-Ti-Su would be the female version of Chi-Su. So there is even a female version of a Jesus. Su is the feather. The concept of Su is always, anytime we have a Su, we always have a divine messenger, a messenger from the supreme being. We call this messenger the messenger of this from the supreme being. A Su would be someone who's a messenger of the supreme being, the divine messenger. That's a Su. A Chi is the spirit of the creator, but the Su is what we now call the divine messenger, the farmer, the divine farmer, uprightness. When you meet someone who is marked by Su, the person is upright. They live in uprightness. The person live in cleanliness, purity. There's clean person. They don't have foul smell coming out of their body. They remove the urine of their body. They wash your buttocks when your body parts. Every time you defecate, you wash all the feces of the body, and you purify yourself with water. Anytime you go to the toilet, our ancestors, you must purify yourself with water. Okay? Uprightness, or live uprightness, purify yourself with water, and live in righteousness. What is righteousness? Justice, right? Things we call righteousness, justice. Be on the side of justice. Be on the side of truth. Be on the side of, be wise, possess skill, be skillful in life, and have knowledge, have wisdom, and have intelligence, and have an enlightened mind. All these things are the Su. The Su is literally enlightenment, the enlightened mind, intelligence, wisdom, skillful person. You can be a carpenter. You can be, that's a Su. You can be a programmer, Su engineer, Su. You have to possess a skill. One thing, you have to possess a skill. You have to be wise. You have to have knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, the enlightened mind. The feather signifies intelligence. Wearing the feather means I reason well. You are a reasoning well. You possess well reasoning. That's what a feather means. A person who is a Chi-SU lives in two forms of what we call Ma'at and Ubuntu. Ma'at and Ubuntu are a mandatory way of life for a Chi-SU. Mandatory way of life. The divine farmer, Su is a divine farmer. We call them the divine farmer. Su means divine farmer. That's what Su is, divine farmer. They're always, the first Chi-SU was a divine farmer, and after him, many Su came, and they were all divine farmer, right? So the divine farmer, also a healer, the healer, a medicine practitioner, a doctor, medicine healer, spiritual healer, emotional healer, psychological healer. You must engage in some method of restoring wellness to the civilization. You must restore wellness or well-being to the people. The plant being, again, living with nature, one who comprehend nature. Usually the generations of Chi-SU, they always had something called the plant being. That means the plant being, while they were a people of nature, they lived almost rooted in nature. They were very rooted in nature. A Chi-SU you might have a garden. You might have to have a garden and, be a planter or something, a divine farmer, healer, nature, be close to nature, a medicine man, understand medicine, a healer, health. Chi-SU understood that. They are called Mes-Sui. Mes-Sui means youth, young, children, youthfulness, beautiful. They are called beautiful. That's where Messiah, the word Messiah, Messi, the birth of the moon. Messi, Mes means to birth. And then Messa, birth. Mes means birth. Si means full. And then means moon. To birth the full moon, or the full moon is born. That's what Messiah means. The full moon is born, or born under the full moon. That's what Messiah means, to be born under the full moon. And that's where Messiu means the young, someone who is like childlike, children. So then the traveler, the first Chi-SU are travelers, inventors of the chariots, they're helper of people, they're saving, they escort travelers. There are many Chi-SU. Throughout Africa's story, they all embody these things I'm telling you. So they always embody these things. Any Chi-SU embody these aspects, these divine aspects. So there isn't one Chi-SU whom embody they are all embodiment of different of these aspects that I'm teaching you. So how Chi-SU was translated into Greek and became Jesus in the city of Alexandria. So the Greeks converted the word Chi-SU into Jesus in the city of Alexandria when they came there in the city of Sais. Now, you see these Africans, these wearing the ostrich feather, they're wearing the eagle feather, the kite feather, the falcon feather, the ostrich feather, the eagle feather. Why is it in Africa, across Africa, we wear the feathers? We wear the feathers across Africa because the feather means Su. It means light. There is light on their head. They have light on their head. They have knowledge on their head. They have wisdom in their head. They have skill in their head. They have an enlightened mind. That is why Africans wear the feather on their hair because it symbolized the enlightened mind, the mind of truth. This person lives is a righteous person. This person speaks the truth. This person dwells in Ma'at. That is the nature of a Chisu. Across Africa, in all across the continent, Chisu exists. People wear it. People go about their business. And is it something that so there are many Chisu in our ancestral history. Are these people great? No, they are ordinary people, but they wear it. Are they Christians? Are these people Christians? No, but they are followers of Asar. They are followers of Su. They're followers of the Chi. That's why they wear it. So did Africans need to be converted from their ancestral system to the colonial faith system? No. Africans did not need to be converted. They did not need conversion because they took it, they threw down the Su. They threw down the Su and they picked up the Zos, right? Because Zos, us, right? No, the Africans did make a mistake. They did pick up the Zos and they threw down the Su. But in Africa, this is the true nature, means reasonable people, people who reason well, people who have wisdom, skill, knowledge in so many forms. All across Africa, you see the ostrich feather, the white ostrich feather. All across Africa, they wear these feathers, Su. They wear it, right? Everywhere. And every one of them are indicating they are Chisu. Every one of them are indicating that they are Chisu or they possess the capacity for Chisu. Every one of them are indicating that they possess the capacity for Chisu. Yet, it's not, nobody is, we're not, it's not, how do you call it? It's not something the way the Grecos brought it to Africa. The Grecos brought it to Africa in a way that now makes it a problem, as opposed to the way it existed in Africa. It wasn't a problem. It was a way of life. You could follow that way of life. But now it came in by the Grecos or in the near north. When they came into Africa, they brought it. They brought it with guns. They forced people. They threatened people. They told them, you're going to burn in hell. If you don't follow it, you're going to die. You're not going to raise. There's a judgment day. And the people were so scared that they put down the Su. They took the Su off their head and they put it down. And they took the Zos, which is not true. The Chi-Su has always existed in Africa. It's always been a part of Africans. And it's never changed. In Africa, people will say the Renaissance. Oh, we have the Renaissance, the African Renaissance. And we don't have Renaissance in Africa. What we have is called Neha Pura. Neha Pura means the rising of the light, or the rising of the light out of the underworld. Neha Pura means the awakening of the light, the opening of the eye of light. Nahapura means to open the eye, to be enlightened, to become awakened. People will be talking like, oh, we are going through this awakening. No, in our system, we have the Naha or the Nehe, the Niha Pura, Niha Pura, Niha Pura, Ni Hasat, Ni Hasat. Okay, and this is the concept of vigilance, being aware at a level of Ma'at, possessing an eye that is open, and you are vigilance. You have an awakened mind. You are conscious. That's what this word represents. It represents the Neha Pura, meaning Pura means the light, right? Or to open the eye, the light, the eternal light, opening the eye of light. And this symbol is associated with the Nahasi. The Nahasi are the Africans of Kemet. The Nahasi are what they call the Sudanese. the ancient Africans. This symbol is associated with them because of the Nahapura, meaning those who open their eyes to the light, those who are renewed, or those who are reincarnated, those who are reborn, those who have been resurrected, those who have experienced a resurrection or a renewal or rebirth. So Nahapura, what the Christians call, oh, Jesus, what did he do? He rose out of the tomb, and then he rose out of the tomb, and then he's called the rebirth, the resurrection, renaissance, the renaissance, etc. In Africa, this is the rebirth right here. I will show you. When he emerges out of the tomb, there you see him right there, standing upon the two crocodiles, holding the lion with his tail, or by his tail, the scorpion by his tail, etc. So while the Christians, their version of TCHI-SU, he rose out of the tomb, and then he was like with holes in his hand. In Africa, he rose with holding all the mastery in his. He became master of all, right? He mastered all things when he rose out of the tomb or the underworld. That's why they call him Kura. Kura means the one who has risen out of death, right? He has all things. He's mastered all things. And this is the African concept, Nehapura. Nehapura meaning the master or the awakened one or the resurrected one, the rebirth, right? Reborn. So, of course, his eye is open and he has the mark of a builder. He has the mark of a builder under his eye, and he has the mark of the sage under his eye. So now he is both the sage and the builder. He's the moon, right? He is the moon. And this is the story of how the Africans established this. But now the Grecos. In the Bible, the first time I came across the word alpha, I read it in the Bible. The story of the Alpha and Omega, I found it in the Bible, right? And before I knew Africans had an Alpha and Omega, I didn't know Africans had an Alpha and Omega. I didn't know that. I thought Alpha and Omega comes from the Bible. And I was so certain that it came from there. So in the Bible, it says in the beginning, in the book of Revelation, it says, look, I am coming soon. My reward is with me, and I give to each person according to what they have done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Every Christian knows this in the book of Revelation. But in Africa, we have the same Alpha, which is I, the moon, and we have the bull, the head of the bull, which is Kintu, Kenti, Amenti, etc. Right? We have this in Africa, but here it is, and Africans believe from the Greco perspective, they have found the truth, wherein their ancestors already had the truth. So the story of the Alpha and how the Bantu of Buganda established the first ruler. As I told you, the story of Kintu. In the book of Revelation, the Bible said the Alpha and Omega is the title for God and Jesus Christ in the book of Revelation. I Googled this and I saw that's what they said. I asked who's the Alpha and Omega? They said God and Jesus. So every Christian will tell you that God and Jesus is the Alpha and Omega. But in the African traditions, the Bugandan will tell you who the original Alpha and Omega. The Kemetic people tell you who the original Alpha and Omega are. Right? They tell you. They don't give. They have their own perspective. So the moon, the sovereign of the moon, his name is Ah. This moon god, the god of the moon, or the ancestors of the moon, this is where the Greeks translated to create the Alpha. This is where the Greeks get created Alpha. Ah, the moon god, became Alpha. The same moon god, it didn't stop being a moon god. This is Ah, or Alpha. Ah is the owner of the Eye of Horus. Ah is the owner of the Eye of Horus. As you can see, he's holding the Eye of Horus in his hand. He is the owner of the Eye of Horus. Ah. Ah is called Osiris, and Ah, Khenshu, or Kenshu is the younger I. Kenshu is called the younger I. So what is an alpha and what does the word alpha mean? In Kemet, the word is fa, father or head of the bull, leader, king, emperor. That's what fa means, father or head of the bull, leader, etc., king of the moon, ruler of the moon, or father of the moon. It's called father of the moon, or even the mountain of the moon, if you so. The word alpha comes from the Egyptian language which means the head of a cattle or the bullhead or an ox. That's what means. In Kemetic language means head of a cattle, bullhead, or an ox head. Now, when the alphabet of the Egyptian alphabet or the Kemetic alphabet was translated by the Greeks created, or the Phoenicians created the Greek alphabet. The alpha is the first letter of the Greek alphabet representing the A sound and holding a numerical value of 1, derived from the Phoenician letter Aleph, which is an ox. And the Phoenician letter Aleph derives from the Egyptian letter A. So Alpha means the head of the bull. When it goes to the Phoenician, it's called Aleph. When it goes to Arabic, it's called Aleph. And then when it goes to Hebrew, it's called Aleph. And then when it goes to Greek, it's called Alpha. So the Alpha is the head of the bull, Kintu, Chintu, Kenshu, etc. It is the same head of the bull. It is the origin of the Latin word A and the Cyrillic A. Alpha is widely used in science, mathematics, etc. So there you see it. It started out as this, and it went from there all the way to Egyptian. And if you reverse it, it'll go all the way back to Latin. So the Greek alphabet is descended from the Phoenician alphabet, and the Phoenician alphabet is descended from the Egyptian Meduneter. The Greek letter alpha is derived from the Phoenician letter Aleph, which is also in Arabic called Aleph. In Kemetic language, or the Meduneter, it is called, or the Medu Nehesi, it is called the speech of the Nehesi. It is called meaning cattle head, or the ox head, meaning the first, the leader. Okay, it means the leader. So that is literally what it is called, the leader. In African systems, in Africa, there are systems which exist, and these systems have an origin point. But because Africans lack knowledge of self, they might carry on as if nothing, is going on. But these systems are extremely important to the soul of Africans. And our ancestors said, because you have chosen the ox head, because you have chosen the ox head, you shall be at the head of all men. He is the Mukama, or the ruler. And because the help was given to him by his brothers, you alone had a full bowl of milk. So that is what Kintu is. In Africa, there's many, many Kintus, many leaders, many kings, many head of men, all of them different versions of these people, right? People who became kings, they were all called Chisu. Many of them, they became kings not by birth, but by their righteous standing, by their devotion to the ancestor. Kintu is symbolized as the cattle head, or the Kintu is symbolized by the cattle head. So when we say what is alpha and what does the word mean, alpha comes from the Egyptian language meaning cattle head, bull head, ox head, and also it means the moon, or the necklace of the moon god, or the cattle necklace that you see the people in East Africa wearing around their necks, the rainbow necklace. So that rainbow necklace, that is it. And if you just translate it in Greek, it's called alpha, and that's where they get the alpha and the omega. So hence, they don't even know what this alpha and omega is, or what this Jesus is. They're not really sure about it, but what they forget, what they don't realize is, in Africa, we know what this is. It is a cow head, or the head of men. Humanity is represented by a bull. You cannot, the Greeks, they have an aversion to animals. The Greeks do not believe that, they believe animals are inferior. So they don't believe in totem. They will remove the totem of a person, and they would just isolate the person as a person without a totem. So when the Greeks took the Chisu of Africa, they removed the bull from the picture. They removed the animal as totem from it, and they kept only the image of a man on a cross. However, in Africa, that is not the case. The case is the man and the bull are never separated. The story of the three brothers were about their name, and the one who chose the ox head. That story is about three people: the divine farmer, the cowherd, the divine cowherd, and the divine king. And you'll find this story in across the world. And you'll find these stories in India, where Krishna is a cowherd, and Krishna is also considered God, right? He's called the head of the cow. And also in all across, Shiva is considered, or Shiva wears a serpent around his neck. Shiva wears a serpent around his neck. And that serpent that he has around his neck, that serpent represents the rainbow necklace of the deities. So he was the one who created the first necklace. This 8-foot man is the first Jesus. He is the first Jesus ever in Africa, or maybe there was another Jesus before him, or Chisu before him. And he represents the moon, and he embodies this full moon. He represents the full moon, and he is called the black cowherd. And the city of Thebes is called the city of the cowherds. Is called his city. He is the builder of the city of Thebes. He is the son that he is called Khonshu, and he is the son of Amun. He is called the son of God. Amun, Amun means the divine creator, and he is the son of this creator. He is Khonshu, the sovereign ruler of the moon. He has different stages of his life. When he was Khonshu the younger, Khonshu the traveler, and then Khonshu the builder, and then Khonshu the master teacher. Spaces where the Khonshu is called the divine farmer, the divine cowherd, the great farmer, the traveler, the son of the road, the crossroad. He's called the Lord of the crossroad. He said to build the Niwat, the cross. He was the one who created the cross, or what we call the Niwat, the pathways. And then he is the guardian of the roads. He's guardian of the roads, the crossroads, and the pathways. So he's associated with the cross. Okay, the cross is a symbol of Khonshu, meaning guardian of the four roads, the four paths of the road, the north, the south, the east, and the west. He is the protector of the four paths: the north path, the south path, the east path, and the west path. He is the guardian of the crossroads. So, when people say Jesus died, well, what about he died on the cross? He didn't die on any cross. He died in Thebes. And upon the bull helmet that they usually do, and they took a cross and they put the bull helmet on the cross, and that became they said that it represented his voice, his head, or that is how they did it in Thebes. The Greeks got their hand of this. They created a whole story, and they mumbo jumbled bunch of stories together. And what about, people say, what about turning water into wine? Khonshu turned water into wine. He didn't even turn water into wine. He had disciples. His disciples are called the Shensu Hor. His disciples are called the followers of Horus, Shemsu Hor. So he has disciples called Shemsu Hor, and then also not just disciples, but he also has who? He also has fisher. He was the one who invented the fishing net. So he created the fishing net. He's the father of the fishing net. So he's called the fisherman. He's called the first fisherman because he created the first fishing net, and then he taught human beings how to use the fishing net. So he's called the father of the rope. He created the rope. He was the first person to create the rope. He's called the father of the plow. He created the plow. He became the divine farmer, taught people how to farm, agriculture. And he's called the father of bread. He turned bread, and he's called the father of wine. I guess he's called the merchant. The father of merchant. He was a merchant. He rode a donkey. Um, he rode a donkey into everywhere he went. He rode a donkey, and as he rode a donkey, or he carried a donkey with him, that donkey symbolized, the donkey represented his, how do you call it? His merchant, his salesman life, his life as a salesman. So the moon lights the pathway or the way of the traveler at night. The moon you can see at night. Khonshu is the ruler or the power of the moon. As the guardian of the crossroad, Khonshu symbolized the cross. Okay. 12 followers called the Shemsu Hor. The Shemsu Hor meaning the 12 months of the moon, the 12 months of the moon, the 12 months or the 12 works of the moon, the 12 things that the moon accomplished, the 12 things that the moon accomplished. So those are called the Shemsu Hor, the 12 followers of Khonshu, the 12 months. Then he lived until he was 27 years old, and then he died, and then he resurrected on the third day. So I think he went in the underworld, and then he emerged out of the underworld, the tomb, on the third day, and then he went on to teach. So this is his form, in his form as the god of the blood, who turned blood, water into wine. He is called Shemsu. Shemsu, he is underworld judge of the damned, and he was worshipped in the early kingdom. So he is the god of the anointing oil, the perfume, and the wine. And in his role, he is associated with festivities, dancing, and singing. So that festival, remember, there was a party where they said Jesus, went to a party, and then the people ran out of wine, and then Jesus turned water into wine. Y'all remember that? Remember that? He turned water into wine. This is Khonshu's other form. This is a form of Khonshu called Shemsu, right? This is his incarnation, his one of his 12 labors. So one of his 12 labor is he invented the anointing oil, the perfume, and he invented wine, and he used water in the mixture to create wine. In his role, he was associated with festivities. So he's the one who created the masquerading. In Africa, you know how we have masquerade? He created the masquerade system. So he's the Lord of the masquerading, right? In Africa, we have masquerade. Africans are forgotten. They think masquerade is associated with devil worship and all that stuff. No, this masquerading was created by the one they call Khonshu. It was meant to celebrate the spirit and the ancestors. It was meant to celebrate this world, the dancing and the singing, etc. So, but he was also considered the god of blood, who could slaughter or dismember other deities, right? Remember, it says, Jesus said, "You eat my body and my flesh." So, Khonshu, what he would do is, when we slaughter the bull, and he would say that the bull was his flesh and his blood. So you would eat his flesh, which is the bull, and you would drink the blood, which is in the land of the Maasai. And in Ethiopia, they would prick the neck of the bull, and they would take some of the blood and they would mix it with milk and they would drink it. So that's where the concept of drinking blood or drinking my blood come from and eating my flesh come from. It comes from Shemsu, where it says slaughter and dismember other deities. It was thought possible that the ancient Egyptians used red wine to symbolize blood in religious offering, explaining why Shemsu is associated with both blood and wine. So some divinities, they are peaceful divinities. They don't like blood. They don't like violence. And you can't sacrifice, you can't give blood to them. But you can give wine to them. If you can't give them blood, but you can give them wine. So you can give them wine and you can give them things. So the Africans learned the art of creating wine. And the story of Sekhmet, remember the story of Sekhmet, his mother, remember his mother, Sekhmet, she, Hathor, transformed into the goddess Sekhmet. She went around killing people. And so the could not stop Sekhmet, and they went to her son Shemsu. And Shemsu, which is the son, he poured wine and all these things, water into, and then he gave it to Sekhmet, and Sekhmet became sedated. And when she became sedated, that is how the was. So in the Christian language, the word Christ means anointing. He is the Lord of anointing oil. So the oils that people use to rub on you or bless you with, he is the father of the blessed oil. Khonshu is called the ruler or the power of anointing oil and the power over wine. So he turns water into wine. He has the anointing oil, which European call Christ. In Kemet, there's another word for it, right? Is called what is it called? Keru, right? Keru means, those who are blessed, right? The blessed speech or the cultivated truth, right? Those who the anointed, Keru. So the Greeks would call it Christ. We call it Keru, right? Um, and then Khonshu is the Lord of the fish and the bread, right? He's the Lord of wine, anointing oil, the Lord and the fish. Remember, he invented the fishing net, and in this form as Hika, he invented the fishing net at Mendes. He through his journey through Mendes, he invented the fishing net. In Africa, the star set in the west and called the land of the ancestors. The star rises in the east. It's called the resurrection. So when the star or the bull, the Taurus, sets in the west, or and rises in the east next to the sun, we call this the birth of Khonshu, the birth of Christ, right? The birth of Christ. So Christmas is not the birth of Christ. What Europeans call Christmas, that's not the birth of Christ or the resurrection of Christ. The resurrection of Christ is what Africans call March, when Taurus, the constellation Taurus and the sun meet together in the spring equinox. This is the resurrection. When Khonshu emerged, when the bull emerged out of the underworld, holding all the forces in his hand. So he is said to, when he was 27 years old, he lived for 27 years. He died, and then he went into the underworld and he battled demons in the underworld, and then he rose out of the underworld on the third day in the east. And that was how the moon came to be. Now we know who the Alpha is. So in Africa, we have our own version of what a Christ is, what a Jesus is. We have our own version of it. And then in the Greeks got their hand on it. They created a story and they put it together and they brought the story to the Africans, and the Africans accepted that story, and that became their way of contemplating. They started changing their perspective. They were no longer looking at the world through their ancestral eyes. They started looking the world through the Greek eyes. So in our ancestral eyes, no, there's more than one Khonshu. There's one Khonshu, but there's more than one TCHI-SU. TCHI-SU is a title, and there's one Khonshu, or many iterations of Khonshu, 12 incarnations of Khonshu, and those 12 incarnations of Khonshu are all established as different things, and the 12 followers, or Shemsuhor. So now, who is the Omega? Who is the end? Right? We have the Alpha, which is the beginning. We begin with him, the head, the king. Now, who is the tail? Who is the end? In Africa, the tail is called Nyalubal, or is called Heket. The tail is called Heket, or the tail is called the Omega. What you call the Omega is the crocodile. So the crocodile, the Omega, is the crocodile. Okay? So in your language, or in the European, the Omega is, how do you call it? The Omega is the end, and then Africa of Alpha is the beginning. But let's go here. I will show you who the African call the Omega. So let's go back to the beginning. I'll show you the Omega. So you see crocodiles, these are the Omega, right? Those are the two crocodiles. These are the Omega. So in Ptahhotep, in the hymns of Ptahhotep, Ptahhotep says, say, Neter upon the two crocodiles. He said, Neter, ancestor, resting upon the two crocodiles. Ancestor standing upon the two crocodiles, meaning ancestor standing upon the Omega. Okay, the Omega are the two crocodiles. The two crocodiles, who do they represent? The two crocodiles. The two crocodiles are, again, the crocodile represents, we have the Omega symbol. You see this circle here and the two lines here, Omega. Let's go to who the Omega is. So where's the Omega? The Bugandans, they call the Omega, or the waters, Nyalubali. Nyalubali, the waters where the Omega rose out of, is called Nyalubali. Okay? Nyalubali is the waters of the Omega. Now you go Google what Nyalubali is, but that is what it is. So Nyalubali is the original name, or what the Greeks call Omega. In Africa, we call it Maka. We call it Maka. The Hindus call it Magara or Makara. Makara means the crocodile. The Omega symbol comes from the symbol called Shenu. This is the original African symbol for immortality, eternity, and timelessness. So in African culture, the symbol, the end, which is the crocodile, right, comes from this symbol here, the crocodile. This symbol is called the Shenu. The original symbol for immortality and immortal and eternity and timelessness, without time, a period without death. Okay, that's called Shenu. Okay, now this is Heket, mother of the crocodile. Heket is the mother of the crocodile. Heket is the goddess with the frog head. See her with the frog head? And she is mother of the crocodile. What does the crocodile symbolize? The crocodile symbolizes the Nile River. The crocodile symbolizes the Nile River, the two Nile, the white Nile and the blue or the black Nile or blue Nile, whatever. The two Nile. Okay, this Heket, mother of the crocodile, she created the crocodile. She is the mother. Sometimes she is called Net. She is called Net, right? But in this form of the frog, she assists her husband create human beings. So in this picture here, she is helping create the human beings. But she is the mother of magic, what people call destruction, magic, witchcraft, all these things. She is the mother or the source of these things. The symbol belongs to the mother creator of humanity, the divine feminine sovereign and ruler known as Heket. The Bugandan call her Nyalubali. The Greeks call her Omega. And Africans, we call her Heket, the mother, the sovereign, and the molder. This is Heket. And the first being, man is created, and she gives life to the first child. She gives life to the child. She is the life giver, and she places life in the body or the body of the child. So this is her husband, Kanum, or Amun or Ba, who represents the moon to some degree. And then this is her, Heket. They both create the first man. Okay, and they place breath into him, or the first humankind, or first people of human being, and that is her role as the Omega. She later on, she is three beasts is separated and joined together to create the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. So the heavens, which is her head, the earth, which is her middle torso, and the underworld, which is her lower body. And she, in this form, she is called Amit, within death. Okay, within death, or within the hunger, the empty, the emptiness. So she later takes the form as Amit. Okay, and Amit now, she symbolize the earth, the underworld, and the heavens, the three world, the three place. And Wisser, the seat of the eye. Later on, the king who sits on the throne, the king who sits in the underworld, is now called Asar. Asar is always associated with Kintu, or Chintu and Asar are always the same being. Khonshu is a younger version of Asar. Khonsu is the younger version of Asar, and Aha, Kur Aha, when he comes out of the underworld, he is the child, the young Asar. So we have uh, Kur Aha, we have Khonshu, we have Ah, and then we have Asar, final, the pharaoh, and then we have him sitting as a judge in the underworld and judging the ancestors. So this individual, our story, who we call Jesus, who we associate with this divine Jesus, we have a different version of this story in Africa. It's a different version. It's a tragedy that Africans no longer accept this version, but this is the true story. This is the real version of who Jesus is. This is the real story of it. Like the one the Greeks told is a copy. It's not the real story. So Thebes is called heaven, the place of the sun and the moon. Thebes is called the place of the sun and the moon. The sun is the father, and the moon is the mother, or the mother is the sun, and the father is the moon. It depending on how you look at it, right? Depending on how you look at it. The first city of Wisser or Asar built for his mother is called Nut, for his mother Nut. So Thebes is the first city Asar built for his mother Nut. And he called the city Niwat, meaning the crossroad. He called the land of Thebes the crossroad, the pathways of the heavens, the way or the path of heaven, right? So Thebes is called Niwat, meaning the path of heaven, which is also called Thebes, but it's called Niwat. Sometimes it's called Niwa, meaning the one path, or it means the way of the flowing way, the four-path, or it can be called Watini, right? It can be called Watini, kind of like Swatini. It can be called Wani, right? Wani. Thebes is the city of the kings or the emperors, the pharaohs, those who are united with God or the creator, and then where the kings rule, where the kings die, and where the kings are buried, and the kings ascend into the heavens. The kings are lifted between the horns of the mother Nut or Mut. They are placed between her horns and they are lifted into the heavens. That is why Thebes is the way it is. So Thebes was the first city founded by Osiris and named after his mother, the sky goddess Nut. The connection placed on the word Niwat, meaning crossroad. Okay, and Thebes is referred to as heaven itself, the house of the sun, Amunwer, and the moon, Khonsu. So Thebes is called the city of the sun and the moon. Okay, and these are the symbols associated with Thebes. Um, so the symbol here is called Niwat or Nuat. It represents the four direction. North represents the water, the fishes, and then flower of life, and then the flowers of life, and then south represents what? South represents the earth. South represents earth. East represents fire. West, south, north represents water. East represents fire. South represents earth, and west represents breath, air. Okay, so those are the four directions: water, fire, earth, and air. So the four animals, which would be this here, would be the bull. This here would be the serpent. This here would be the ram, and this here would be the hawk. This would be the hawk. So you have the hawk in the east, you have the bull in the south, you have the serpent in the west, and you have the ram in the north. Okay, so those are the four animals. The moon is the symbol of death. and fertility. So the moon god is the symbol of, so Khonshu, when he dies and he goes into the afterlife, he becomes the judge of the dead. Khonshu takes on the form of Asar. He's given the title of Asar. Asar means the seat of the eye, the insight, the seat of the insight or the wise. So when Khonshu was born, and then he grew up as Aha, emerging out of the underworld, and then he became Khonshu the Great, traveling across the world, and then he later became the Pharaoh, and he ruled in Thebes, and then he was buried. His body was uh, giving, each of the pieces of his body was cut up, and it was given to all the people. So the Africans took the body, divided the body into 42 pieces. They divided the body into 42 pieces, and they gave all the pieces to everybody because there was a civil war. When he died, the Africans became upset. They wanted their portion of the body. And so there was a civil war that was happening. So they decided that the best way was to split all the bodies and give it to everybody. But then when the mothers united the Kemet, when the mothers took over and they united Kemet, they brought all the body parts of Asar or Khonshu, they brought it together and they wrapped him in a bandage, and they set him as the ruler of all African, the one ruler of all Africa, the one ancestor of all Africa. So where he had been cut into 42 pieces and put everywhere, and then when he was done this way, the goddess went to all across Africa, and she gathered the pieces and brought it back together, and she wrapped it in a bondage, and she buried him. And when she buried him, he in this point now he became the ruler, the king of the underworld. He sat on the throne in the underworld, and he judged all the people who died, all the Africans who died. Now they go through the underworld to his domain, and he judges them. And then when he judged them, he sends them to they are given either heaven, earth, or the underworld. They are placed, their souls are categorized in that. So this is how we practice our spirituality long ago, before it was reinterpreted by the Greeks, and we were given a I guess a Greek perspective of that same thing. Okay, so in crossroad may represent the location between the worlds, and such as the supernatural spirits can be. So the land of Thebes is the place or crossroad between the supernatural world and the physical world, manifested world. So Thebes is considered the central point between the spiritual world and the non-spiritual world. So the land of Thebes is a sacred land where we call it the world, the road between the two worlds is called the crossroad between the two worlds. That's what Thebes is. So Mary means love. Meru means beloved. So Meru or Mary in it means beloved. So the mother Nut, his mother Khonshu, is called Mary or beloved, the beloved virgin. It is this beloved virgin that the Greeks took and they said the virgin beloved or Virgin Mary, right? That is how they got the word Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary comes from the beloved, right? The beloved virgin. So that is where they get the word Mary, okay? So she created her son Khonshu, and that son he sat on the throne in the underworld, and that is how. So Chisu is the symbol of this African, is the symbol of, again, the righteous ancestor. Those who wear the serpent on their head, it sits on your prefrontal cortex, means you are a Chisu, feather in your hair, and the serpent balancing on the prefrontal cortex of your mind. And this, you see him clearer in this picture. He rises. This is Ker'ah. He rises out of the underworld, and he is surrounded by the two goddess, scorpion goddess, Serket, the two Serket, the bull, and what is the other one have? and then you see there is Amit, and then you see the crocodile, God upon the two crocodile. This, so all his journey in the underworld, everything that Khonshu went through in the underworld, all the stories that you learn about Jesus, etc. This is all here, written in here. This is where the people get the idea of Christianity. And then there you see him again balancing on the two crocodile, holding the lion by his tail, the antelope, etc., and the two serpents. And this now, he is now called the Horus. So this is where you get Horus from. This is Easter is also associated with the Easter bunny. His mother, Unut, which is called the Easter bunny. And then there's much more, but I'm going to stop the story here. But here are some of the things that he invented during his time. The moon is called the left side or the east side, or the moon is called the moon, right? The left hand is to symbolize as the moon. The right hand is symbolized as the sun. So the left hand is the moon, and the east, representing the east. Okay, let's see here. What did I do? Where am I? Okay. He invented the tools to give farmers, his name is Khonshu, but the Hindus call him Chandra, etc. The Hindus call him Chandra. We call him Khonsu or Chisu, right? The divine farmer, his name is divine farmer. His name can be called Hakansu. I think the Igbo call him Ekwensu. The Igbo call him Ekwensu, but we call him Akansu. In Kemet, we call it Hakansu. So Akensu. But the Igbo, I believe I've heard them call him Ekwensu, meaning he is the messenger, he is the traveler. He is called Nemti, meaning the traveler. Okay, so he's responsible for farming, plowing the fields, grains, digging the earth, plowing the earth. In March, we start the plowing of the earth, breaking the ground, etc. Using the bow, he used the bow to break the earth. The collar around his neck, the necklace, the bow necklace, he wears that around his neck. The collar, or the necklace of God, as they call it, the divine necklace, the collar of the bow, the animal collar, the bell around the bow's neck. He created that. He's called the sovereign of counting the day. He was the first sovereign to count the moon. He counted the full 30 days of the month. He was the counter. He counted all the 30 days of the month. He counted all the days of the month, all the 27 days of the month, and then 3 for the underworld. He was the one sovereign of farming tools. The plow, he invented the plow. He invented the shield, the mace, the shovel, the axe. He was a herbalist. He's a medicine man. He's a healer, herbal medicine. And then the samatawi, it's called samatawi, the lungs shaped shovel, mescanet, and the plow. He invented the lung shaped shovel called samatawi. He invented the rope. He's called the god of the rope. The marketplace and the donkey. He's the god of the donkey and the marketplace. He is the builder, owner of Menefer. He's the father of Menefer. Commerce. He's the father of commerce, trade, and currency. He is the lunar calendar, and he is Kamiri, or the lunar bull, great bull, a man with the head of the bull, the first divine farmer. So this is who he is, inventor of the necklace, the chain, the beads, that we wear in Africa around our necks. This is his necklace, his symbols here in the Medunetter. Ameche Uche, Ameherest, Amechihuti. He goes through all these different incarnations, and this is who Jesus is in Africa. Is all these things: the father of the cows, the bull of heaven, Taurus constellation. He's affiliated with all of these things. I don't know what else to say. Apet Heru, the bull of heaven. He's called Apet Heru, meaning the bull of heaven, tilling the earth, the house of the bull, agriculture, etc. So that's what we call alphabet. Alphabet means the house of the bull, or the house of agriculture. So I think we've come to the end of our lecture, our lesson today. So positive and creation energy to all of you. Uh, you know, in Africa, we have our own version of the Messiah. Remember, Messiah, right? Messiah in Latin, Messiah in Latin. Mess means birth, to birth. And then C means full, and A means the moon. So that's Messiah. So you say, oh, Jesus is the Messiah. Of course, Jesus is the full moon, right? The full moon. That's what it is. And then as Wisser is or means the Almighty. Wisser means the Almighty, twice mighty, right? The double might. As Wisser, he's the ruler of the underworld. He's in the underworld, Wisser, right? Holding everything there is this Wisser, right? The Almighty. So the word Asar is not a person necessarily. Asar is a title meaning Almighty, because he emerges out of the underworld holding all things in his hand, and he's called the Almighty. So Al means Au, and then Sar means mighty, Almighty. That's where we get the idea for Asar. Asar. People say Asar, Asar, Asar. The seat is the throne, the seat, Ast, and then R. R means the eye, light, the seat of light. So that is the seat, Ast R, right? Usar means all and mighty. Wisser means almighty. And it's a title given to the one who emerged out of the underworld. So the first deity, the first Jesus in Africa is not Asar as people say. Rather, Asar is almighty, meaning Ker'ah. Ker'ah is almighty, the one who emerged out. That's what it means, almighty, possessing all the attributes of everyone. That's Asar. But before he was Asar, he was Ah. He was Ah. Then Ker'ah, and many, many things, Khonshu, taking on Nemti, different iterations, and then forming the 12 moons, or the 13 moons. And those was our legacy as Africans. Share this video. You know the truth now, and you want other Africans to know the truth. If you don't share the video, you don't repeatedly share it, you don't constantly share it, other Africans won't know what I've spoken about today. Other Africans will not know. These stories I've told you, nobody will know. It is your responsibility, now that you know the truth, now that you've heard the truth and it's gone to your soul, it is your responsibility to share this video over, bring the people to subscribe to this channel. It is your responsibility, right? I've already given you the truth. Now you just want other people to have it. So I leave the work to you to do your part. I've done my part. The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is always welcome. Positive and creation energy to all. Ta and Ma'at to all. Ankh and Ubuntu to all. Madi and Sia to all. Men Kutet Kemati. Sekem and Sek Uten. Peru M. Shah.